Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nuance Needed podcast. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Sam.
And we're really excited for this special episode. It is a crossover episode with Whitney Goodman, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is the author of Toxic Positivity and the founder of Calling Home, which is this incredible community that helps adults who have difficult relationships with their family.
Mm-hmm. And she's also at the handle Sit with Wit. So if you've seen her on Instagram, that's probably what you've seen her under. And we wanted to bring her on because we had the Parental Estrangement episode that many of you really enjoyed and had a lot of additional comments and questions on. And so we figured, why not go to someone who has built an entire program helping people understand their complex family dynamics and the nuance in that, and like even deeper complexities of estrangement and what that looks like, and decisions and boundaries and all those sorts of things.
So this is like a 2-part episode. The first part is airing on her podcast. It aired yesterday on Calling Home podcast. So please go listen to that first part of the episode where we dive into essentially we break down myths of parental estrangement, and we talk about the TikTok trends of it, and we share the nuance, and Whitney also shares her experience as someone who really specializes in this work.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you come back here, we are going to spend this episode talking about some of the personal sides of estrangement, how it impacts therapists, and we also really just talk about how to be a better parent, how to be a parent who doesn't end up in a situation. Obviously, you can never predict with certainty whether this will happen, but Whitney gives us some of her best techniques and ideas to prevent parental estrangement from happening.
Yep. It's great. We absolutely love talking to her, and we can't wait for you to hear it. How does this work impact you? Like, how has it caused you to be reflective of things? Because I think something that we talk about a lot as therapists, and I think for those of us that are content creators or have platforms, we're talking a lot about how all of this impacts the people that we work with and our communities and people that follow us. But I'm just really interested, like, to be so deep, how has it impacted you?
Thank you for asking. That's a really nice question. I do think people don't really consider how it'll be interesting to study in like 10 years how all of us are warped
fried
by this work, you know. It's interesting. I've never shared this, but people ask me a lot if I'm estranged from my parents, and I'm not. Amanda's met my parents. Like, I'm not estranged from them, and this work for me was not born out of like a place of personal experience necessarily.
Right.
I am like the type of person that when I see a group of people not being understood and I feel like there is some type of injustice there, I'm like, oh, I am going to take up that cause.
Yeah.
And doing that, I think, has put me somewhat in the line of fire, like we talked about, from people who are in a lot of pain. I know that when both of my pregnancies, I had to really pull back from like being so forward facing because the criticism would get to me.
Ooh.
I remember when I was pregnant with my second child, some woman made like a whole video series about me, like about my looks, my weight, my face.
You're kidding.
Like, oh, it was insane. And she had blocked me, so I didn't see it, but my mom saw it and showed it to me. And I was like, oh my God, it was just comments, all of women, just being like cruel. And that's a situation where I've been like, gosh, is this really worth it? And you have to kind of come back. I'm sure when either of you have experienced, those posts that I think, Sam, you had one recently, like go viral, and you get this onslaught of just people yelling shit at you. It's difficult. I always have to come back to the people that I work with and being like, okay, I really feel so passionate about this issue that I want to keep talking about it, and taking breaks in between is vital.
Yeah.
What about you guys? How do you deal with
Well,
it?
Sam and I actually just did a whole podcast on this. Sam, do you want to share? 'Cause this
Plug
is
away.
Sam.
It was, I mean, anytime you start having like a larger platform, you're going to get people that are cranky or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I've had one-offs like here and there, like that woman that was like, "You're not God," in the video that I recently posted. Feel free to go listen to Nuance Needed. Yeah, it was just this video where I was calling on people to be better friends and this
Yeah.
idea of like tapping into connection, and that we're all so flippin' lonely because we've lost the art of crafting community in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And people just were super upset and said that I was being ableist, that I was being anti-neurodivergent, that I hated people with chronic illness because I wasn't adding caveats to their situation of why they can't engage with community or different things like that. And I think to speak to it on like a personal level too, the ableist comment really cracked me up because I have a brother with severe disabilities that I go home frequently to help care for
Mhm.
and provide caregiver support to him and my parents who are his full-time caregivers and all this stuff. So, but it's that nuance that people aren't interested in learning, or that I'm sure, Whit, you have had difficult conversations in your family despite having healthy relationships and good relationships, because to have those healthy, good relationships takes work. It
Oh my
takes
gosh.
effort.
Absolutely.
It takes time. Like
there is no perfection being had, I can
No.
tell you.
no, none.
Yeah.
We are living and applying these skills in real time as much as anybody else. And I will tell my communities and my followers all the time, if you see me talking about it, this is something that I am living myself. Like, I will not be talking to you about things or ideas or concepts that I am not willing to apply on my own.
Totally.
And I think that gets lost in the sauce sometimes because we trigger people. We make people uncomfortable. We point out what is probably not working for them or what they're doing that's not going great. And we just become the easy target for giving the middle finger and all the assumptions.
Mm-hmm. Whitney, have you changed at all since becoming a parent in the way that you think about this work that you do?
Yeah, I expected it to make me feel more understanding, maybe of the parent who doesn't have a relationship, and it actually made me less understanding of the ability to like not apologize, not like humble yourself, listen, be accountable, just because I find that that's something that I am trying to do all the time with my young children. And it's so important to me that I'm just like, I am not so naive to think that my kids aren't going to mess up and disappoint me and we're going to have
push buttons.
Issues.
Yeah.
But that repair piece like has become even more important to me as a parent, and harder for me to understand a parent who isn't willing to feel the discomfort to do that.
I feel the same way. Since
Yeah.
I figured I would feel more compassion towards adults that are parents.
Right. I
And
just have more compassion for kids. Yeah.
I do too. I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I made the choice to have a child and I knew what that involved and I thought seriously about the choice. And obviously not every parent has that privilege. But yeah, regardless of what my child says or does, I want to repair and I will listen and I want to I want to make the effort to have a relationship with them.
Totally. And Sam, for what it's worth, I saw your video and it actually like, it lit a fire under me. Like it made me be like, I do need to work on this because I do. And it was really helpful. Like when I saw you be like, oh, I had this viral post, I was like, I have to go check it out. And then I found it and it really, it was helpful to me personally. So thank you.
Well,
you have one fan.
Thank you. No, I mean, and I too, like, that's the thing. Like, I was calling myself out.
Right.
As well, of being like, you know what? Because I just moved and I need to be putting myself out there to like build community and being more vulnerable and saying what I need and actually following through on that. But I think you're both, as the one who does not have a child, but is a child.
Yes.
I am a child of my parents. I've had to do some pretty intensive repair work at times with my own parents. And I feel incredibly lucky that my parents have both been very open to their own work, which I think is indicative of some generational trauma and patterns that they chose to break. And I think you've both brought up the word repair. And I think that word gets made so complicated because it makes people so uncomfortable when it is actually incredibly simple. Like, think of how quickly your pain and your negative feelings will dissipate when someone just looks at you and says, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. No caveats, no explanations, no justifications. Just, I'm sorry about that. And I would really like to move forward. Like, the shift and the mood is pretty quick. And it's almost jarring to the other person because in your head, you're like, you've had the argument in the shower for the last 3 months. And so, like, now that it's the person's in front of you, for them to just be like, I'm hands up, I'm sorry. You're like, are you sure? Okay. It sucks the air out of the room. And I just want that to be out there to repair. I know it's really vulnerable. And in that moment, it's a really big step to be able to say, I'm sorry. And that takes a lot of ego death. Yeah.
It's really vulnerable.
It's so
right?
vulnerable.
To be like, and to hold that emotional space and not be defensive. It's simple, but it's really hard to do, especially if it wasn't modeled to you. I don't think I even knew how to do it until I was sober because I had to really have a lot of hard conversations and apologize. But I think about our parents and modeling, right? Our parents weren't given that grace from their parents. So then we don't even know what it's like to have someone authentically say that. And I wonder, Whitney, too, in your work, I bet you see that there are misconceptions about parents and you never apologize to your children. Like, what are some of those that come up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that parents do feel like if they apologize, they are saying that they are bad. They are admitting fault. And very much the black and white thinking that you all talk about. Like, I can only be a good parent if I am infallible. I never say I'm sorry. When I think what we're saying here is like everybody has something to be sorry for. All three of us here. I have to apologize or recognize, what I'm doing all the time, with my spouse. I say something in a tone like, oh, I didn't mean to say it like that. This is what's going on with me today. That I also recommend that, like, start with these little moments. You don't have to go back to the biggest things that you have caused in your whole life,
So true.
as a first entry point to that. Can you start by just recognizing when you snapped at someone, when you're kind of in a bad mood, when you didn't show up when you said you were going to, like anything little like that, to practice using that muscle that you're not going to die. When you apologize, it's going to be okay and you'll come out the other side.
I think it's so unfortunate because the saddest part is parents put this pressure to be perfect on themselves and then they can't even repair. They can't even do the thing that they like. They don't have to be perfect. They just need to repair. And it's actually much easier than being perfect.
Yes.
But because we have this idea of what parents should be in our culture and our society, we miss those moments of repair and connection.
Yeah, I know that I will not be a perfect parent. I'm not a perfect parent
No.
any day. And I feel like that's always the takeaway, right? Is like, don't expect yourself to be perfect. Learn how to repair instead. And then also for anyone that is like navigating estrangement, if someone continuously refuses to repair with you and they can never be wrong, they never have anything that they could work on, like that's when you have to decide, is this working for me to be in that kind of relationship?
It sounds like a lot of times, whether estrangement fully happens or not, is simply based on people's willingness to have a hard conversation and listen and repair. And that is it's so sad to me, right? I think parents a lot of times are like, I can't be perfect. I'm never enough. This is why we're estranged. And it is actually so simple and small what your child needs from you.
Well, and to like admit wrongdoing is not indicative of your worth. To say, you know, when the parent's like, well, I guess I was just like a horrible parent, or like, I guess I was just the worst, you know, it's like, stop looking for the validation. You go figure out how to get that. Yet also to just say, I genuinely did not mean for that to be that. Right? That can be a true statement sometimes. And to just own it is it's not a confirmation that you are a horrible person.
If you are hearing Sam and Whitney and I talk all about parental estrangement and wondering about your own relationship with your child or other people in your life that are emotionally unavailable, and you're thinking that you may need some extra support, I would love for you to check out my practice, Therapy for Women Center. We are virtually in 42 states across the country, but we also are local to the Philadelphia area. We have 3 offices there, and we're coming soon to New Jersey and Florida. So check us out to learn more. We would love to support you wherever you are on this journey.
I have this like running thought in my mind, Amanda, that maybe you can relate to, that my kids, when they're like 17, 18, are going to be like, you and dad worked so much and you were never around. And my friend so-and-so, his mom stayed home. And like, that's clearly representative of me being like, there's just so many things I want out of life. It doesn't feel like there's enough time for all of them. And I feel like I run through that. Like I would want to say, okay, tell me what you felt like you were missing out on when I wasn't around. You know, what was it like for you to have parents that worked like that? And it might happen that one of my kids is inspired by how much we worked and the other one thinks it's horrible, you know, and being able to have those conversations of like not expecting for your kids to receive all of your decisions well. Doesn't mean they hate you or they don't want to have a relationship with you, but we're all making meaning about our lives, right? Like wondering, Mom, why'd you choose this? Why'd you do that? It had this impact on me. And I just want to understand and talk about it. I don't necessarily want to blame you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is one of the best things about any relationship, sort of, but especially a parent-child relationship, is that curiosity, is being able to understand why someone made the choices they made, whether we liked them or we didn't.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot as well. And that's what's so hard about being a parent, is you can't do everything. You also, every child is different. Every situation is different. For some people, it's you make the right choices for your child. For other people, it would have been better to make different choices.
Yeah.
So all you have is hearing their experience. And as someone who, I'm just like someone who's obsessed with memories and remembering things, and it feels like that's like all I have sometimes. Maybe also since, you know, having a child, I feel like my brain is worse. So I'm extra trying to hold on to everything. But I would hope that a parent is super fascinated in their child and like thinks they're amazing. And how do we go from thinking that your newborn looking at you and holding your finger is the most fascinating thing in the world, to then not being interested in how their childhood was? I don't know how to reconcile with that.
I know. That also makes me sad, you know, just like not having that desire to understand because of how painful it would be for you, which I think at the end of the day is like, parents, you have to do your own work. Like you have to get clear on what your shit is.
Yes.
So that when your kid comes to you, you don't recoil from that because you're so scared.
Yeah.
Can I also say, as a person who's not a mom, I think with my friends who are parents, my clients who are parents, there's not a lot of content about existing in the middle. And when I say the middle, I mean from about age 5 to 18. I feel like there's kind of a gap, and maybe I'm missing something because clearly my FYPs are going to be much different from the two of yours. But I feel like there's so much emphasis on survive the newborn stage, mama. Like, oh my God, like toddler stage sucks, mama. You know, like all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden your kid goes to college and it's like, now my kid doesn't want to talk to me. And, you know, the complexities of that. But I feel like, yeah, there's this forgotten middle section. That's where they're really becoming a person. And they're a sponge and they're learning and they're starting to have interactions at school and their world is getting bigger and they're understanding things more and they're able to actually like go out and exist in their interests. And I feel like there's kind of a void in the recognition of just how important those years are. But I find there's a lot of trip up on all of those stages.
You're talking about something that I am very passionate about, that I think that I think you're hitting the like, what is it? The nail on the head. Lost that phrase in my brain. The parenting, that intensive parenting early on is a lot about like the baby needing the parent, right?
Yes.
And then as they grow up, it's this slow breakup in a way, you know, between parent and child. And I think you're right that there's not enough information about what that's going to feel like for the parent to slowly have your child pull away from you and prioritize their peers and start going through these changes that some parents, because they're not expecting it or they're emotionally immature, they're not ready for it, whatever it is, they start to like glom on during those years. And I actually think this is one of the top reasons for estrangement among young adults. We talked about this earlier, that like these parents do not know how to let their kids go.
No.
Yeah.
And it is really tough. I think we have to talk about that a lot more, about like, it is good for your child to not need you in the same ways that they did when they were 3. I pray that my child
no longer needs me.
Does not need me to take him to the bathroom and to open the snack. It's a sign that you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
You know, they're equipped.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know, Whitney or Sam, if you've seen Lisa Dahmer's work.
Yeah, that she does teenage stuff, right?
Yeah, she talks about teens, and it like altered something in my brain chemistry when she told me that, I mean, this is so obvious, but it's a normal developmental phase for teens not like their parents because they're trying to figure out differentiation. So all their brains know is anything like my parents is not good, isn't like cool. So I'm going to be totally different. And I think where we get into trouble is, as a parent, you're allowed to grieve your child getting older. You're allowed to grieve them going to college. Like, you're allowed to grieve this slow change. And just because you feel some way doesn't mean your behavior is valid just because your feelings are.
Yeah. Don't grieve it with them. Grieve it with like your therapist, your friends, your partner.
Yes.
Well, exactly.
I also like, and you two should call me out if the way I'm describing this to people is like totally off base, because, you know, all of my experience raising children is, but here's how I describe it. Because I have a couple clients that have kids in that like 7 to 11 range, and parenting shifts. And the way I've described it is, I'm like, your role as a parent is to kind of be like a harbor. Meaning you see your kid as like this little ship that you send out into the world every day. And some days those waters are really chill and they have this safe place to come at night. And then some days they're going to go out and shit is rough. The waters are rough. The storm is hard. There's a lot going on. But they know that they have this harbor to come back to. And if you craft that harbor to be a safe, resilient place where they know they can come, repair, do their own work, you'll be there to help them through it, they will continue to want to come back to that harbor. Even in spite of their independence or where life takes them or what they end up doing, it's not that you'll only have 18 summers with them. They will want to come back home for the holidays. They will want to go on trips with you. They will want to visit just because you have remained a place that is a respite from the world for them, and a place where they can come chill out for a little bit and then leave and go back out into the big blue and figure out how to make it work. And there's a stability there that I find is the goal for parenting, beyond just this like, well, I have to be micromanaging and I have to make sure that they're waking up in the morning for class in their first semester because I woke them up every morning all through high school. And, you know, like that isn't the right role for a person that you eventually want to be a functioning adult. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I'm like totally off base in describing that.
It's perfect. Mm-hmm. I think it makes complete sense and it's the right approach.
Yeah.
And I think to fully close the loop, the problem happens when the parents want to keep the boat in the harbor, move the harbor with them around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Whitney, for coming on. This was such a great conversation. Tell us more about where people can find you.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking with both of you. You can join Calling Home, which is our virtual community for adults that are breaking generational cycles in their family, at callinghome.co. And you can also find me on Instagram at sitwithwhit.